We have a lot of breaking news to share in today's update. We have a lot of great news. We do admittedly have one not so good news, so as a huge heads up. Now, even if you are already aware about all of the news and what's been going on, I do want to talk a little bit about the significance of it, of what these particular news means. Maybe to start is that the really great news to begin with is that we now have officially had word now that there is now officially a 9th state that has now officially filed a lawsuit to join into the battle to bring back unemployment. A huge congrats to the state of South Carolina. Now, in today's update, we're really only going to be focusing on a couple of states, but as always is that even if we don't end up getting to your state, I do still think it's really important to note because it shows what's possible, and whatever happens to these states can very much end up happening to your state as well. And I figured that a lot of states are using this. For example, in Tennessee and Arkansas, they used what happened in Indiana and what happened in Maryland to try to fight back for their unemployment. So we're going to cover all of this news, but as always, real fast, maybe before we begin, remember to smash the like button because we are hopefully going to share a lot of great news, even though there is one huge warning, one not so good news, so you guys can decide later if you guys want to, but it's always greatly appreciated. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell for similar videos. Welcome if you guys are brand new here. Huge thanks if you guys have been here for a while. And as always, feel free to comment any questions or thoughts about anything, or as always, actually, any particular information, if you guys have any particular information about your particular state, about the unemployment, or honestly just really anything there, because I think that with so many people awaiting and a lot of this news that's really just much more on the local level, I think a lot of people would really greatly appreciate it as well. So with that being said, let's get this video started. So to start off with the great news, as just mentioned, is that the 9th state has now officially filed a lawsuit. And within each of these 9 states, keep in mind, many of them actually have multiple lawsuits that's been going on. Huge congrats to South Carolina. Recently, huge congrats to Arkansas because they did file also just a couple of days ago. So I believe right now the 9 total states that we officially have some kind of lawsuit in is going to be in Indiana, in Maryland, in Texas, in Oklahoma, in Ohio, in Tennessee, in Florida, in Arkansas, and then in South Carolina. Hopefully I remembered it all on the spot because we've just been following so much unemployment news. So that is the really great news is. And now the even more greater news to share is that we also now officially have information or decision results from a couple of the states. The great news is that one state or one additional state has also now released information about their judge's decision, and they've officially ruled in favor of the people that they will now bring back unemployment. A huge congrats now to the state of Arkansas. So Arkansas has actually been doing really well this week, because keep in mind is that this is the week where Arkansas managed to essentially file their lawsuit, have their hearing, and also have their hearing's decision all come back within a single week, and thankfully it ruled in their favor. So the really great news is that if you happen to be in Arkansas, you guys are now officially the 3rd state that has released decisions, and even more specifically the decision to bring back unemployment. It started with Indiana, it went to Maryland, and now it's officially in Arkansas. We don't have the specific timeline about when you should be able to physically get the payments in Arkansas. However, in Indiana, they actually got their payments pretty quickly, actually more or less. I believe the story is that when Indiana finally won their hearing, keep in mind is that the lawsuits are still open in all of these states, but when they officially won their injunction / or the hearing, the judge ruled in favor of trying to return unemployment until a decision is made. I believe in Indiana, once they made that decision, it took only about 1 week, and it's also been confirmed by a lot of people living in Indiana that they've officially received both their payments to get back onto unemployment, but also the retroactive pay. So if Arkansas was able to file their lawsuit, have their hearing, and have their hearing's decision come out within a single week, then the great news is that it definitely looks very promising that hopefully we can actually physically see the payments settle into the bank account with the retro payments, something hopefully soon, maybe sometime by the end of next week, maybe even sooner. So that is really, I guess, the great news to really start off with. I believe is that many people speculate, it's not confirmed yet, but many people speculate that Missouri may be working on a lawsuit of some kind under the radar. So they may end up becoming the 10th state now. Of course, in Missouri right now, it's unconfirmed, so I would just kind of just go in with an open mind, but I think it's just something to maybe note about, that maybe it'll pull through. It's just not official yet, but it's just something that's believed by a lot of people right now, more under the radar. So I think overall is that there's definitely a lot of great news to share in today's update. Indiana has of course officially won their lawsuit back about 1 to 2 weeks ago. Maryland never even had to end their unemployment because people stepped in to stop it before they even physically ended it. And now Arkansas has officially also won their hearing or injunction to restore it back at this time. And we also are now awaiting decisions from a lot of the other states about what they hopefully end up doing. And some of them already have their hearings scheduled coming soon. So we just have to physically see what ends up happening. Now, we do have relatively rough news to share about one state, and I know it may be very difficult to take in. You may already know the news, but we will talk a little about the significance of this news, which is really that we also officially have decisions from one more state now about what the judge has officially decided. And the hard news to say is that one state, the judge turned down the reinstating. In other words, the judge has ruled that they no longer will be continuing the unemployment. Now, the case is still very much open, which we're going to talk a little bit about. However, the judge has decided that at this time, they won't be returning it. The huge hard news is that this applies to the state of Ohio. So it's a little bit hard news to take in. I know there's a lot of people in Ohio right now, and I know there's a lot of difficulties and things that are going on there, but it's really just the news to take in about what's happening. It was even more shocking because to a lot of people, Arkansas and Ohio made their decision for their hearing within basically just a couple of hours or days within each other, essentially within under 48 hours. But the fact that you essentially have one state that was able to become successful in getting their unemployment back, and then one state that struggled, is a lot of controversy that's really going on right now. I believe is that they both pled almost the same exact case. The case that Arkansas used to win their unemployment, in the lawyer's words, I believe is that they basically mentioned about how by ending unemployment, it was going to cause a lot of damage and harm, and that such a thing should not be allowed. If you happen to be in Arkansas, it worked in their favor. If you do happen to be in Ohio, sadly, it did not end up working. Now, I think it's really important to notice is that the lawsuits are still open in pretty much every single state. This pretty much just shows what side it's leaning towards. I think it's also important to notice, and it's kind of like what we've mentioned before, is that a lot of this stuff, if there's anybody to basically point at, you can maybe say it's the governor for starting the fact that the lawsuit has to exist, but it really lies at the end of the day in the hands of the judge. So a lot of stuff related to the law, related to the decisions, it is subjective. It is not always a clear-cut black and white where you can just kind of pop it up. A lot of times there is a little bit of a biased, subjective part to it. There's definitely, I think it's fair to say everyone can agree, is that there's a lot of politics that goes into it. There's a lot of political stunts, a lot of movement that's right there. But that's pretty much the story about what's really going on in those two states. Now, I believe going forward from here is that what's going to happen is that if you happen to be in Ohio, is that the people will be filing an appeal of some kind. So what's going on is that in a lot of the states that restored their unemployment, for example, in Arkansas, it's believed that the governor may file an appeal to kind of reverse the decision. But the great news is that it looks in favor of the people. In Ohio, it's now the reverse, where it's actually the people that are going to be filing the appeal. We don't know what the decision will become in the appeal. It's very hard to say. I would probably say it's truly like a 50-50 split decision. Feel free to share any thoughts. I know there might be a lot of mixed opinions about what's been going on, but it really is just simply put what is literally going on and happening in each of these states right now. If you're looking for information in Ohio, I do believe is that the lawyer that's going to be representing you guys is going to be a firm called Dan Law, DANNLAW, so law like that. If you were to look up on their website, they sometimes will be posting updates about what's been going on. Once they file the appeal, we kind of have to just see what ends up happening from there. But I believe what they're specifically going to do is that they're going to be using the argument that that because a lot of the other states were able to do such a thing, that they should be able to replicate, or simply put is that if a lot of the other states were able to restore their unemployment, then maybe by law or certainly righteousness, that they maybe should be doing the same right there, also in Ohio. But of course, it's just really, really hard to say right now, and I figured it's just something that's important to share. But outside of that though, is that obviously it's really great news depending on the state you are in. Hard news if you just by particular chance happens to be in that state, especially because they were, after all, the first state that had a decision that didn't rule in their favor. The other 3 states did come out with their decisions, and there's a lot of other states that have not made their decisions official, but it's just believed that it will be in favor of the people. But of course, it's a little bit too early to call, so we will be having to wait for that. But as always, if you guys made it this far, thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. Consider smashing the like button, or you guys can decide, because I know, because if it's rough news to take in, you guys can decide, but it's always greatly appreciated. And as always, consider subscribing and hitting the bell, and feel free to comment any questions, thoughts, or honestly just really any information about anything at all. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well. If you're watching this on release date, have a great weekend, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.